Hi, my name's Bill Moore. I am the CEO of Packmore. We started in 1989 when I left Procter & Gamble, so we've been at this for almost 29 years now. Part of a life transformation process at a plant is working not only with the plant community, with the people that are in that processing plant, but broadening that influence. And so what we find is that as people get healthy, and especially spiritually, when people, we seem to follow a kind of a hierarchy of needs, and it's really, there's a physical need everybody needs to manage. People have a need for money, they need a car, they need a home, they need food, they need medicine, and they need childcare. Those are really fundamental, and it's important that we meet those needs. And as we start meeting those needs, people are interested in moving along that path of developing and growing. And what we find typically next is there's an emotional growth place where people want to grow emotionally. And so if we start engaging in that space, then we find the next place people are naturally interested is spiritually. And once people start to engage spiritually, something happens, something different happens. And that something that happens is there's something in us, there's a capacity we find to want to help others. And it's really powerful. I mean, it really becomes much bigger. And I'm not saying people that aren't spiritual won't help others. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that people that do engage their spiritual side have more capacity for that. They have a stronger desire. They have a greater need to fulfill that outreach to those around them. And so we want to help in that space, and we want the community to be influenced by us. And that to us is a good measure of how healthy we are. Are we having an impact? Are people maturing and growing spiritually? Because we'll start to see it in the community. In the community, it shows up in first is in their families. And so, when we look at that model, there's a scripture in the Bible that we've looked at, and it's in the book of Acts, and it's chapter 1, verse 8, and it talks about this model. And Jesus says, "You will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in Judea, in Samaria, and then to the ends of the earth." And so he describes how this will start in your home, and it'll move to your neighborhood, and then it'll move into the countryside, and it'll move across the globe. And that's exactly what happens is, as you influence your employee, then they'll want to influence their family, and then that family will want to influence some more families, and those families will influence their church, and their church will influence their neighborhood, and then the schools become influenced, and then slowly that ripples through the community, and then you start to see this impact. And so we really love that. We really love seeing people do that, and you'll see that now in our plants where we're working with the prisons, the work release programs. That's an outpouring of somebody that worked for us, that said, hey, there's people that need help that work every day. That didn't come from me. I didn't think of that one day and say, hey, let's go work with prisoners. It was an employee that came to me and said, there's people that are in the local prisons that really need help. Can we help them? And hey, there's another program in the town where there's kids that have come out of drug programs. Can we help them? So somebody's come to me and said, can we reach into the community? I'm like, wow, oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And so what we tend to do is we follow the lead of our employees. So we work with sheltering programs for battered women. Well, we go to these programs not because I'm out being asked by them for me to come fund it, because our employees say, will you go with me to that? And when an employee comes and asks me and says, will the company join me in helping in this community thing? I always say yes. We always go there because I know that person's involved. And if they're involved, we're going to have a big impact. And so that's what it looks like. That's how it moves out. That's how the influence shapes the community and has an impact. And that happens organically. We're never going to be in a magazine of how big we had an impact. We don't want to be. That's not the point. The point is one person at a time, one family at a time, one community at a time. And that happens very slowly, very organically, and in a very healthy way. If you try to do it big, it becomes bureaucratic, gets government involvement, lots of money, and it becomes corrupted. And we don't want that. That's not what we want. So we're excited about that idea that there's this model of Acts 1:8. Things move out into the community and there's an influence because lives have been changed, hearts have been changed.